For Arsenal, that brings to an end an extremely taxing week, both physically and emotionally. After two convincing wins in the North London derby and against Bayern Munich respectively, we came unstuck against the 10 men of Chelsea. We're still on a run that has seen us build up a 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League table, and a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge is by no means derailing of that. And performance-wise, personally, I can qualify some of our struggles with understandable context, but today's analysis, which is going to look, yes, at the tactical lessons from the draw, is going to be slightly different. I'm going to float around between discussions, starting with analysing every meaningful action of Declan Rice and Mikel Merino, look at why Arsenal struggled to deliver that final blow to Chelsea, our tactical ideas going into the game, Chelsea's strategy, and some final takeaways. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. And in spite of, a below par team showing, Declan Rice stood tall for Arsenal once again. And not totally down to him, it's fair to say. He came away from the battle that had been built up between him and Moises Caicedo as the healthier one. But let's focus on Rice. There's no rage baiting going on around here. Reecejames as well, it's fair to say, was simply awesome, but I thought Declan Rice was equally as monstrous. The only logical place to start, for me, are the three or so crucial interventions that Rice made when tackling, and first up it was on Pedro Neto. Let's do some nerdy analysis of why Declan Rice's tackling looks so clean. The spring he has is why he can swivel so quickly here and put a foot in even though the ball has passed him. It's never a lunge from Rice. You never see him desperately overcompensate. It's just this kind of smooth, forceful, springy extension of his legs. And Rice literally steals the ball off the players he's tackling. It's the same deal here with Enzo Fernandez. Enzo is driving and Rice has to quickly change direction, but it's never that desperate lunge. It's just this extension that stops the ball dead in its tracks. If you watch where this passage begins too, Rice is the lowest of our midfielders, as he was when Zubimendi was on the pitch as well. Mikel definitely had an eye on trying to manage those Chelsea transitions. Their front line is still a very runny front line, as well as managing those second balls, which I think, bar Declan Rice, certainly Chelsea had a step on us throughout the game. Of course, this is one of the benefits of Rice's more totalising usage this season. On hand to control these pinball moments or to sweep up balls hit into the channels, particularly in a saliba-less Arsenal, or to collect those spills and launch attacks from a little bit deeper, where he can then decide to join the attack or not. And we see that come together here. Rice becomes that uncompromising wall when he snaps in a tackle like this. No loose ball ever seems to come from his tackles. They're just clean, and in a game of few slick moves for Arsenal, this arguably was our best. Rice joining in, deciding to join in high, as we get another glimpse, I think, of what Eberechi can do for our releases in transition when he's front-facing and surrounded by runners like Rice and Martinelli. The weight from Eze is spot on, as is Gabby's nudge onto Rice, and as Dec rolls it back to Martinelli, it is a smart stop from Sanchez. Rice had his moments going forward, but largely it was a more protective, watchful role, and that's tied to how often we saw him in the back line. A lot of time in between our two centre-backs, certainly trying to help that new partnership negotiate Chelsea, but there's scope in this role for more of these kinds of Jorginho-esque scoops from Rice, or the passes we've seen Zubimendi take up so well. And Rice has shown he can hit these as well, and when you're playing against a deep defence, these balls are vital, and I want to show you why. Madueke here drives to the byline and puts in a really good cross. We didn't set our rest defence brilliantly or as well as we would have liked in the game against Chelsea, but our net here catches the clearance, and just as Chelsea's backline is reorganising itself, the man-to-man scheme that Maresca put together, even when they were defending with 10 men, is disrupted, and that's when you have to quickly pull the trigger. It's lovely from Rice. We have the runners arriving and Saka doesn't quite get a hold of it. The last one for Declan Rice now, and it bridges us nicely into this conversation about Mikel Merino, a player who I am a massive fan of, as you know. Rice plays a splitter into Merino, who times his drops into these high pockets so intelligently. As Chelsea are transferring markers and Eze is keeping the centre-backs honest, Mikel can drop. And this is the really weird importance Mikel Merino has taken on for Arsenal. But it's not surprising at all. He's vital for our trophy efforts this season, even though he gives the ball away, and I think that's part of the reason why. I'll let this passage play out again, with Merino swivelling fast and looking to slip players in behind instantly. He's the best at the squad at this kind of sequence of actions, how clever the movement is, the strength to shield the ball, the hips to spin, and the willingness to release. The technique is also undeniable too, but how often do we see Merino lose the ball playing a risky pass in these situations? And for many, understandably, that's a really frustrating thing to watch again and again. Let's go, though, all the way back to my scouting report on Merino for just a second to understand the kind of player that we're watching in these high pockets.
He looks through teams constantly, but in these really advanced areas, Merino is all about acceleration. We're talking 1 to 2 touches maximum for so many actions. These impulsive, I would describe them as progressive balls, are by no means magnetic off his boot. There are misplaced and miscued ones, but his base level of technical ability is definitely clear for all to see.
If you want another example from the Chelsea game, look at how here Merino leaves Chalobah to receive off Zubimendi, with Martinelli dashing at those diagonals. Chalobah wants to control that threat in behind, so Merino can spin free. And that ability to actually wait on the ball that I spoke about in the scouting report in recent weeks and in this clip has been slightly missing, it's fair to say. But I think part of the reason behind that is Merino realises he's often been caught in these deeper areas when he dwells on the ball before. But this is also why a Madueke, a Martinelli, those kind of counter movements are integral to balance Merino's drops. And this is also part of the reason that we've seen Mikel, in the absence of Gyokeres, tweak our build-up structure, with Merino and Eze floating just below our two wingers, able to split or to cluster, and our false tens able to move as they see fit. Chelsea's disruptiveness, our timing being slightly off, our references being new in the backline with Mosquera and hincapie there, and just being technically subpar, all contributed, I think, to a poorer on-ball showing for us. But when we do get it right, Merino is a really superb, as we know, false nine. I've been asked a few questions as well. I'll use this as a chance to bring in this discussion about Zubimendi's involvement in games away at Old Trafford, Anfield, and now at Stamford Bridge, for example. And I think sometimes you don't see the kind of influence on the ball and with his touches that maybe you'd want to see with a Zubimendi, because, as I do say a lot, he's just as much off-ball control-y for us, and you can miss the balancing job he does at times to stop everything being so close and ball to feet. But I do understand, though, about the debate around Zubimendi, and the conversation probably deserves a bit of a more in-depth look from myself. But this trio, Zubimendi, Eze, and Mikel Merino, and also the Caicedo red card. Watch how things come together in this sequence. Zubimendi, for the moment, is our high right centre mid, making those double movements and again, keeping Chalobah deeper because he wants to protect the most dangerous zone of the pitch. Eze is narrow, which keeps Caicedo in between, marking him and Merino, who creates separation on that Timber pass. Timber fires that pass into Merino, and we connect finally with that inside ball, which we struggled to do against Chelsea. And Caicedo is lunging, overcompensating on the tackle. And the game scenario from there completely changes. But I get that Merino is a strange case, but he's intelligent and he's forcing these passes for a reason. I think technically he's really underrated, and most importantly, he scores big goals. Yes, I wasn't going to miss out on talking about the equaliser. Merino actually gets in between the centre-backs here, which, in a crowded box with one more player, is obviously a harder task. But we know Merino can time his runs and arrivals really well, and combining that with those channel hits to Victor Gyokeres is why, even though it doesn't really work for me, we've seen him dovetailing Gyokeres when the pair have played together. That's, I think, part of the reasoning behind Arteta's choices. And this passage with Merino and Gyokeres in that dovetailing partnership is how we essentially tried to break Chelsea's rearguard in the second half. Eze was off, so Merino was the one trailing Gyokeres now. We see Chelsea matching us up man-to-man on the right-hand side, and Timber then for us became the foil to arrive into the last line and either pull the back line deeper, creating space for Odegaard and for Saka, or become the free man himself. I thought Timber's whipped deliveries were proof of the greater consistency he's delivered with his crosses into the box this season, although the template for a fully fit Ben White is still clear to see for me. And as Gyokeres, intentionally or not, I don't know, flicks it into Merino, you can see another one of Mikel Merino's really nice traits that he has in the box, and that's firing those quick shots off. He's by no means unstoppable here or as effective as an Eze, but when you add that to his timing, his leap, the technique that he has on his headers and that kind of those veteran-like tricks that he's developed over the years, it's easy to understand how, I think even with Kai Havertz back in the team, Merino is probably our best threat in a crowded box. And that results in massive goals. Whether he starts or whether Merino is thrown on when we need it off the bench or provides situational value like defending our own set pieces or sitting deep ourselves. You're always going to eke out value somewhere in Mikel Merino, and that's why he's such a valuable member of the team to have. And now, as always, my final rambling thoughts on the game. I will always be grateful for Saka's magic on the ball. From guaranteeing us stability that we needed on the ball by holding off Cucurella's aggressive game plan, to not only providing the perfect cross for Merino, but the perfect setup too, checking Cucurella one way or the other, not for effect, but until Saka has worked an angle to bend one across to Merino. Number 2, alongside the first game of the season at Old Trafford, the Chelsea draw was one where Arsenal's levels, our levels, did slip below the opposition for portions of the game. Once again, credit for Chelsea, not for the kicks that they gave us, but for the other tactical elements of their game plan. But I think some calm in relation to Arsenal's performance, for me, is required. And I would love, as always, to get your guys' comments down below and we can start a discussion as we always do. But for what it's worth, I think there were some really good ideas as well from Arsenal, as I've gone through in this video, certainly in the 11 against 11 situation in that first half an hour. And I don't think we were blown away at all. Number 3, with Brentford only a couple of days away, we've reached that point in the season now where fresh legs are at times going to be more important than that continuity from a lineup point of view. Let's manage the squad the best way we can. And lastly, my tactical submission for cool screenshot of the week. Martinelli dashing through the middle, both Merino and Eze spilling either side of a kind of midfield diamond, with Timber at the tip and Calafiori holding the width. Let's appreciate, as I said at the beginning, the run we have been on and the run we are still on. We've built up a lead, there's a long, long way to go, but the squad are up for the challenge. I hope you've enjoyed this different kind of analysis today, but I'll catch you very, very shortly in the next video. Thanks so much again. Like, comment, hype, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, everything like that. Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.